Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. You think it's tough to be a conservative in Chicago, Amy? Think about being a conservative in the San Francisco Bay Area.
They have them over there?
They do. They meet at undisclosed locations with secret handshake and assumed names. And I'm not really engaged in hyperbole here. They were profiled on local news station in San Francisco conservatives.
Some East Bay conservatives tell me they live a secret life, never able to tell anyone how they really feel politically, in fear for their safety. Do you feel like continuing to be a Bay Area conservative, you have to do it in secret?
Yes. Well, just for my personal safety, my physical safety, I better keep my mouth shut.
Robert Ward is coming out conservative, but in a place he says is risky for those who share his beliefs.
If you witnessed what happened in Berkeley, there's so violence on top of it. I mean, being a conservative in the Bay Area, it's like being a heretic. Like you lead a double life. You can never tell your friends, your coworkers.
Robert told me several Bay Area conservatives here have secret meetups, like this one we got invited to in the East Bay. Organizers asked us not to disclose their location or the faces of anyone who attended, but told us this is the way it has to be in a liberal state.
They seem to pride themselves on being diverse, and they're diverse about everything except their ideology.
No,
Yep.
isn't that true?
So well said.
Isn't that true? In Berkeley, the birthplace and resting place of the campus free speech movement, we saw it die last week. We're all for diversity right up until the point of disagreement. Also, a related story, the issue of voter fraud. It came up in O'Reilly's interview with Trump. It also came up in Mike Pence's interview on Meet the Press with Chuck Todd. Trump saying to O'Reilly that despite the reports last week that he was kind of walking back on an executive order to investigate voter fraud on a national scale, that that in point of fact is not the truth, that Trump is going to look into a voter fraud, and he's appointing Mike Pence to do it.
Forget that. Forget all of that. Just take a look at the registration, and we're going to do it. And I'm going to set up a commission to be headed by Vice President Mike Pence, and we're going to look at it very, very carefully.
Well, that's good.
All right, and now we're happy to be joined by John Fund. He is a contributor to in the National Affairs columnist for National Review, nationalreview.com. He's also, along with Hans von Spakovsky, from Heritage Foundation, one of the gentlemen who's written most extensively about voter fraud in this country. John Fund, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you.
So what about the claim that Trump made that was challenged again by O'Reilly in that Super Bowl interview about 3 to 4 million people who voted who shouldn't have voted? Is he directionally right, even if he can't substantiate that number? Give us your take on Trump's pronouncements about voter fraud.
3 quick points. One, no, I don't think Donald Trump is right that there are 3 to 5 million illegal voters and they all voted for Hillary. 2, that doesn't mean he doesn't have an important point. Is there anyone in your listening audience, anyone, who doesn't believe there's a voter fraud problem in Chicago and some other parts of Illinois?
Right.
Is there anyone who doesn't believe that? Of course there is. We don't know the third point is we don't know the size of it because for 8 years the Obama administration has deliberately withheld from states any information which would tell us what the size of the potential problem is. For example, the Department of Homeland Security, they have a list of every single legal alien in this country, green card holders, etc. They have refused requests from the states for 8 years to get that list so they can compare to their voter registration lists and find out if any of those people are voting. I could go on and on with the obstructionist tactics of the Obama administration. The bottom line is we need an investigation to see how much of a problem there is, and anyone who doesn't want an investigation is playing hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil.
All right. Donald Trump today is immigration order. It's round 2 for that. Your thoughts on it, and can you prove to me how this is in accordance with the Constitution?
Well, I think it's unfortunate that Donald Trump rushed this out without proper vetting and consultation. He's a big fan of vetting. He didn't vet his own executive order well. Having said that, the judge in Washington State, who, by the way, maybe a Bush appointee, but was only appointed to the bench because it was a trade with a liberal Democratic senator for a conservative judge. They had to have them go in like Noah's Ark one by one. The judge's order is preposterous and is going to be struck down even by the liberal Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I believe that we should have a more responsible, restrained discussion about what should be our security concerns about immigration. And this executive order, unfortunately, has not led to that. It's led to more heat than light.
And so as you suggest, the courts ultimately uphold the president's power to do what he has done, Pence explained, look, the problem that we picked these 7 countries the same way that the Obama administration did, or took the intelligence work that was the predicate for the legislation President Obama signed in December of 2015, because they have internal vetting problems, and we can't trust that people coming from those countries are who they say they are. It's that simple. Is there a rationale behind the 90-day and 120-day time frame? People really believe that that is the necessary time to impose a vetting system that we can trust, or is that kind of arbitrary just to put a pause on this for right now?
Oh, I think 90 days is probably as good a time as any. I'm not a security expert. I don't have a problem with the kind of executive order this is, but the kind of chaos and the kind of confusion and the kind of, well, it discredits other things that Trump may try to do in the future. So I don't think it's the most important thing that we have to do in the war on terror, and I hope that the next time that Trump does something, it's in such a way that his supporters can more easily defend it, more easily explain it, and you don't have all of this chaos swirling around it, caused in part by the White House just not having its act together.
Did you expect that the controversy surrounding this will inhibit some discussions that have kind of bubbled into news outlets that they're looking at more executive orders in the realm of immigration with respect to social service benefits and the like for people who come to this country? Are those going to be shelved because of how this is played out?
Well, I hope they're not shelved, but I just, the Trump administration is getting its sea legs. I understand that every administration starts out with a little rusty, and it doesn't quite know exactly where to go and where the bathrooms are. I'm just saying, if you're going to pursue this, and you don't want protests in the streets every single day distracting from the rest of your agenda, just get it done right on the first go.
All right. Before the Super Bowl yesterday, Bill O'Reilly sat down with President Trump, and asked a question and an answer that people are still talking about this morning when his rosy relationship with Putin, and Trump said there's a lot of killers, we've got a lot of killers. And what, do you think our country's so innocent? Do you think that he's insinuating that what goes on in Russia under Putin's control is what's going on here in America?
I don't know exactly what the president meant. I do know that this is an example of how candidate Trump had so much success speaking off the cuff as a candidate, has got to adjust himself to a new reality. When President Trump says something, people take it very, very seriously. He is speaking not just for candidate Trump, he's speaking for the entire United States of America. And I don't know what he meant, but it sure didn't sound good, and it verged on moral relativism, which is not something I want to hear from an American president.
Well, right, and the other thing, too, I mean, it's been interesting. We've had a running discussion all morning, of course, with people that are rallying to Trump's defense and trying to kind of redefine the English language in the light most favorable to Trump regarding those comments. But it seems to me, you just go back and say, what would the reaction be from conservatives had President Obama said the same thing? Would we be talking about his apology tour and his disbelief in American exceptionalism and all the like?
Look, I think it's fair to say that there should be 2 watchwords for conservatives, and I hope especially the people who listen to this show. One is everyone in Washington, I mean everyone, watch what they do, not what they say. That means you don't always take Donald Trump seriously. However, words do have consequences. And when it comes to Donald Trump, the watchword should be our leader, right or wrong, no. Our leader, right or left, no. We support the president when he's right. We question him when we don't understand what he's saying, and we say he's wrong when he's wrong. That is the way to be a patriot. That is not. We don't want blind partisanship now. We want patriotism, and we want someone who, while he may not have started out in life as a conservative, we are going to hold him to some conservative principles.
Well said, and that's why he is the national affairs columnist for National Review, nationalreview.com. John Fund, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.